My name is Marcus Thompson, and I want to share with you the story of how a devastating accident at 16 years old became the catalyst for achievements I never could have imagined. This isn't just a story about overcoming physical limitations. It's about discovering that our greatest strength often comes from our deepest struggles. Growing up in Atlanta, Georgia, I was what you might call a golden boy. I was the star quarterback of my high school football team, had a 4.0 GPA, and college scouts were already visiting when I was just a sophomore. My father, Robert, was a former college player himself, and my mother, Linda, had been a track star. Athletics wasn't just in our blood, it was our family identity. I lived and breathed football. Every morning started with a 5 a.m. run, followed by weight training before school. After classes, it was straight to practice, then homework, then studying game film until late. My bedroom walls were covered with college football posters, and I had a detailed plan. Full scholarship to University of Georgia, for years of college ball, then hopefully the NFL draft. My teammates looked up to me, not just because I could throw a perfect spiral 60 yards downfield, but because I was the guy who helped struggling players with their grades and organized team community service projects. Coach Williams used to say, I was born to be a leader, and I believed him completely. The attention was intoxicating. Local newspapers wrote articles about me, and I was invited to speak at youth football camps across the state. My girlfriend Ashley was the head cheerleader, and together we were the perfect high school power couple. I was cocky, I'll admit it. I thought I was invincible, that nothing could touch me. October 15th, 2010. That date is burned into my memory, forever. It was a Friday night, and we had just demolished our biggest rivals, 42-14. I had thrown for over 400 yards and 4 touchdowns. After the game, the team decided to celebrate, and a group of us went to hang out at my teammate Jake's house. I should have gone straight home. I had a curfew, and I knew my parents would be waiting up, but I was riding high on adrenaline, and when Jake suggested we go for a drive in his new pickup truck, it seemed like the perfect way to cap off a perfect night. There were 6 of us crammed into that truck, too many for safety. But we were teenagers who thought we were immortal. Jake was driving, and we were cruising through the back roads outside town. Music blasting, windows down, all of us laughing and reliving the highlights of the game. I remember Jake taking his eyes off the road to look at something on his phone. I remember shouting, Jake, watch out. I remember the horrible sound of screeching tires, the sickening feeling as the truck rolled over. And then, nothing. The first thing I noticed was how quiet everything was. That's when I realized I couldn't feel anything below my chest. I tried to move my legs, tried to sit up, but nothing happened. It was like my body had been cut in half. The neurologist, Dr. Martinez, explained that I had suffered a complete spinal cord injury at the T12 level. The vertebra had been crushed in the accident, severing my spinal cord. I would never walk again. I remember asking about football, about whether I'd be able to play in the championship game in 2 weeks. The silence that followed that question told me everything I needed to know. My football career wasn't just over, my entire identity had been shattered in an instant. The first few months after the accident were the darkest period of my life. Everything I had worked for, everything I had dreamed about, everything that made me who I was had been taken away in a split second. I went from being the star athlete everyone looked up to being the kid in the wheelchair that everyone pitied. The physical challenges were immense. I had to learn how to do everything over again, how to transfer from my bed to my wheelchair, how to shower, how to get dressed, how to navigate a world that wasn't built for people like me. Simple tasks that I had never even thought about became major undertakings that left me exhausted and frustrated. But the emotional challenges were even worse. I fell into a deep depression that seemed to have no bottom. The team went on to win the state championship without me. College scouts stopped calling. Ashley eventually broke up with me. I couldn't blame her. I wasn't the same person she had fallen in love with. My teammates would visit occasionally, but the conversations were awkward and forced. Eventually, the visits became less frequent, and then they stopped altogether. I became angry at everyone and everything, at Jake for being careless, at myself for getting in that truck, at God for letting this happen. My grades, which had always been excellent, began to slip. Teachers and classmates treated me differently now, with a mixture of pity and awkwardness that made me want to disappear. The person I had been was gone. and I had no idea who I was supposed to become. The turning point came about 8 months after the accident. I was at Shepherd Center in Atlanta for a follow-up appointment, wheeling through the lobby with my head down. When I heard the sound of rapid-fire wheels behind me, I turned around to see a guy about my age flying past me in a racing wheelchair. Not the hospital-issued chair I was using, but a sleek, 3-wheeled machine that looked like it belonged in a sci-fi movie. He was moving so fast that the wind from his passage actually ruffled my hair. His name was Devin Carter, and he was a Paralympic racing champion. When he stopped and introduced himself, I was struck by how incredibly fit and confident he was, and how he talked about his wheelchair not as a limitation, but as equipment that allowed him to go faster than any runner could ever dream of. "You look like an athlete," he said. "What did you play?" When I told him I had been a quarterback, he nodded knowingly. "I played basketball before my accident, thought my life was over when I couldn't play anymore. Then I discovered racing, and realized I had been thinking way too small." He told me about his training regimen, about races he had won around the world, about speeds that seemed impossible. He spoke with the same passion I used to have when talking about football, and for the first time since my accident. I felt a flicker of interest in something athletic. Before he left, Devin handed me his card and said something that stayed with me. "You can sit there feeling sorry for yourself, or you can figure out what you're capable of now. Trust me, it's probably more than you think." It took me another month to work up the courage to call Devon, but when I finally did, he invited me to watch one of his training sessions at a local track. Watching Devon and his training partners work out was like witnessing a completely different sport than anything I had ever seen. These athletes were pushing themselves at speeds that seemed impossible, their faces showing the same intensity I remembered from my football days. The racing wheelchairs themselves were marvels of engineering: lightweight carbon fiber frames, huge wheels angled for maximum efficiency, and seating positions that put the athletes almost horizontal for optimal aerodynamics. They looked more like Formula One cars than wheelchairs. Devon introduced me to his coach, Maria Santos, a former Paralympic athlete who now trains some of the best wheelchair racers in the country. She took one look at me and said, "You've got the build for distance racing. Want to try sitting in a chair?" The first time I sat in a racing chair, everything felt wrong. The seating position was completely different. My hands didn't know how to grip the push rims properly, and I could barely move forward. But there was something about the potential I felt in that machine that excited me when I managed to complete one lap around the track. Even at a pathetically slow pace, the other athletes cheered like I had just won an Olympic gold medal. Their encouragement was genuine, and it reminded me of the camaraderie I had missed so much from my football team. My early training sessions were humbling. I had always been a natural athlete, but racing required a completely different kind of strength, technique, and endurance. My shoulders and arms weren't conditioned for the specific demands of wheelchair racing. After my first real workout, I could barely lift my arms to wash my hair. But instead of discouraging me, the physical challenges excited me. For the first time since my accident, I had a reason to push my body, to test its limits. I had forgotten how much I missed that feeling of physical exhaustion that comes from giving everything you have. Coach Santos started me on a basic conditioning program, building up my general fitness and teaching me proper technique. We worked on my stroke mechanics, my breathing, my posture, and gradually built up my endurance. The other athletes became like a new family to me. They had all been through their own journeys of loss and discovery, and they understood the challenges I was facing in a way that my well-meaning friends and family couldn't. They didn't baby me, they pushed me to be better, just like any good team would. Devin became a mentor, sharing not just technical advice about racing, but wisdom about how to rebuild your identity after a life-changing injury. "The accident didn't take away your athleticism," he told me one day. "It just changed the way you express it. You're still the same competitor, you just needed to find a new sport." After 6 months of training, Coach Santos suggested I enter my first race, a local 5K. I was terrified. I hadn't competed in anything since my last football game, and I wasn't sure I was ready to put myself out there again. The morning of the race, I was so nervous I could barely eat breakfast. As we lined up at the starting line, I looked around at the other wheelchair racers and wondered what I had gotten myself into. Cannons, while I've struggled to find my rhythm, Devin stayed with me throughout the entire race, maintaining a pace that challenged me but didn't leave me behind. For the first mile, I was focused entirely on not embarrassing myself. But somewhere during the second mile, something clicked. My stroke became smoother, my breathing settled into a rhythm. That state where your body and mind work together perfectly. I didn't win the race, or even come close. I finished in the middle of the pack with a time that was respectable for a beginner, but nowhere near competitive. But when I crossed the finish line, I felt something I hadn't experienced in over a year. To tell them about the race, I could hear the relief and happiness in their voices as I described the experience with enthusiasm and passion. They had been so worried about my depression that hearing me excited about something again was like a miracle to them. After that first race, I was hooked. I increased my training schedule, working out 6 days a week with track sessions, road training, and strength work. Coach Santos helped me develop a comprehensive plan that would prepare me for longer distances and more competitive events. The physical transformation was remarkable. Within a year, I had developed upper body strength and cardiovascular fitness that I had never achieved even during my football days. My shoulders and arms became incredibly powerful, and my endurance improved dramatically. I started entering more races, gradually working my way up from local 5 kiloseconds to regional marathons to national-level competitions. Each race taught me something new about tactics, pacing, and race strategy. My times improved dramatically, and within 2 years, I was competitive at the regional level. Coach Santos started talking about the possibility of making the national team. It seemed like an impossible dream, but she reminded me that I had already achieved things that had once seemed impossible. The training became my life in the same way that football had been before my accident. I planned my days around workouts, monitored my nutrition carefully, and tracked every aspect of my performance. But this time, it felt different, more mature, more thoughtful. My parents were amazed by the transformation they saw in me. I had gone from being depressed and withdrawn to being more focused and driven than I had ever been. They started coming to my races, cheering from the sidelines with the same enthusiasm they had shown at my football games. My breakthrough came at the Boston Marathon. I had qualified for the elite field of wheelchair racers, which meant I would be starting with some of the best athletes in the world. The race started fast, with the lead pack setting a pace that was almost uncomfortably quick. For the first half of the race, I sat in the middle of the chase pack, trying to stay relaxed and conserve energy. The course through Boston was incredible. Thousands of spectators lining the streets, bands playing at every corner, and an energy that carried you forward. The real race began around mile 20, when the early leaders started to fade. I found myself in 4th place, with 3 runners ahead of me who had been racing at this level for years. According to conventional wisdom, I should have been happy to hold my position, but something inside me refused to settle. With about 4 miles to go, I surged past the 3rd-place runner and set my sights on the 2 leaders. I caught the 2nd-place runner with about 2 miles to go, and suddenly I was in position to win one of the most prestigious road races in the world. The leader wasn't going to give up easily. Mile trading surges and testing each other's resolve. With about 400 meters to go, I made my final move. I had saved just enough energy for one last surge, and when I went, the other racer couldn't match it. I crossed the finish line in 1st place, winning the Boston Marathon in my first appearance in the elite field. The victory was life-changing, proving to myself that I could compete with anyone in the world. Winning Boston opened doors I had never imagined. I was invited to train with the National Team Development Program, which meant access to better coaching, sports science, support, anything I had experienced. We analyzed every aspect of my performance: stroke mechanics, aerodynamics, nutrition, recovery protocols. I worked with biomechanics experts, sports psychologists, and nutritionists. I started competing internationally, traveling to Europe and Asia to race against the best athletes from around the world. That making the Paralympic team would require improvements in every area. The selection process was grueling. At the national championships, where final Paralympic team selections would be made, I was entered in 3 events: the 1,500 meters, 5,000 meters. When the final kick came, I was ready, and I won by just a few hundredths of a second. The 5,000 was more suited to my strengths. In the marathon, I won by over a minute. When the Paralympic team was officially announced, I was named to compete in all 3 events. For years after sitting in a hospital bed believing my athletic career was over, I was going to represent the United States at the Paralympic Games. The Paralympic Games were everything I had dreamed they would be and more. The village atmosphere was electric, and when I wheeled into the stadium wearing Team USA gear, I thought about how far I had come from that dark hospital room. My first event was the 1500 meters. The race started conservatively, with everyone waiting for someone else to make the first move. I stayed patient in the middle of the pack, saving energy for the crucial final 400 meters. The final 400 meters was pure chaos. Athletes going wide. I found myself in perfect position with 200 meters to go, sitting in 3rd place with clear track ahead. When I kicked with 150 meters remaining, everything came together perfectly. My stroke was smooth and powerful. My fitness was there, and my confidence was absolute. I moved into 2nd place, then into the lead. National anthem and watching the American flag rise was the culmination of everything I had worked for. But more than that, it was validation that the path I had chosen after my accident had been the right one. I won 2 more medals at those games, silver in the 5,000 meters and bronze in the marathon. But the gold medal in the 1500 will always be special because it proved that I belonged among the best in the world. After my Paralympic success, I started working with young athletes who had recently acquired disabilities, sharing not just technical knowledge but wisdom about the psychological challenges of rebuilding your identity. I began speaking at schools, hospitals, and rehabilitation centers, telling my story not to inspire pity, but to share practical insights about resilience, goal setting, and finding purpose after adversity. I talked about how my accident had actually led me to discover abilities I never would have known I had. 5 years after my Paralympic success, I founded the Thompson Performance Academy, a comprehensive training and development center for athletes with physical disabilities. The academy combines world-class athletic training with academic support, life skills development, and mental health resources. We work with young people who have recently acquired disabilities, helping them discover sports that match their interests and abilities. But we also work with established athletes who want to reach higher levels of performance. Several of our graduates have gone on to make national teams and win Paralympic medals. The Academy isn't just about creating champions. Don't define their limitations. We run programs for families, helping parents understand how to support their loved ones through the adaptation process. Looking back on my journey, I'm struck by how different my life turned out from anything I could have imagined. Several crucial lessons have emerged. Your current circumstances don't determine your future possibilities. When I was lying in that hospital bed, it felt like my life was over. But circumstances are temporary, even when they involve permanent physical changes. What matters is how you respond and what you choose to build from them. Strength comes from struggle, not from ease. My football career never taught me what I was truly capable of because everything came relatively easily. It was only when I faced real adversity that I discovered reserves of determination and resilience I didn't know I possessed. Identity is not fixed. I had built my entire sense of self around being a football player. So when that was taken away, I felt like I had lost everything. But I learned that identity is something we choose and create, not something that happens to us. Community is essential. I couldn't have made this journey alone. From Devin's initial encouragement to Coach Santos's expertise, to my teammates' support, to my family's love, every step forward was made possible by other people believing in me. Purpose is more powerful than personal achievement. Winning Paralympic medals was incredibly fulfilling, but it doesn't compare to the satisfaction I get from watching a young person discover their own potential or helping a family navigate the challenges of adapting to disability. A message of hope if you're reading this and you're currently facing what seems like an insurmountable challenge, whether it's a disability, an illness, a major setback, or any other kind of adversity. I want you to know that your story is not over. In fact, it might just be beginning. The accident that left me paralyzed felt like the end of everything I cared about, but it turned out to be the beginning of a life that has been richer, more meaningful, and more impactful than anything I could have achieved on my original path. You have strengths you haven't discovered yet. You have potential that hasn't been tested. You have contributions to make that the world needs. Even if you can't see them right now, the path forward might not look like what you originally planned, and it probably won't be easy. But it can lead to places more beautiful and meaningful than you ever imagined. Sometimes our greatest struggles prepare us for our greatest successes. Don't let anyone else's limitations become your reality. Don't let fear of the unknown keep you from exploring what's possible. And don't ever give up on the idea that your life can have tremendous purpose and impact, regardless of what challenges you're facing. Your race isn't over. In fact, you might just be approaching the starting line of the most important competition of your life, the race, to discover who you really are and what you're truly capable of achieving. Keep pushing forward. The finish line is closer than you think, and the victory will be sweeter than anything you've ever experienced. We want to hear your story. Everyone faces challenges that test their strength, resilience, and determination. Whether you've overcome a physical disability, illness, accident, or any other major life obstacle, your journey could inspire others facing similar struggles. Have you discovered new abilities after facing limitations? Have you found success in unexpected places? Have you learned that your greatest challenges became your greatest strengths? We'd love to feature your story on our channel. How to share your story? Send us a message describing the challenge you faced and how you overcame it. Tell us what you learned about yourself through the process. Share what advice you'd give to others facing similar obstacles. Let us know if you'd be interested in being featured in a future video. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more inspiring stories that prove the human spirit can overcome any obstacle. Hit that notification bell so you never miss a story that could change your perspective or give you the strength you need for your own journey. Your story of overcoming is waiting to inspire someone else. Will you share it with us?